She had $3.47 in her bank account. Her 6-month-old baby was crying, hungry, desperate for formula that she couldn't afford. And in a moment of absolute desperation, she would send a text to what she thought was her cousin asking for help. But that text would go to someone completely different. A stranger. A billionaire. And it would change both of their lives forever. This is the story of how one mistake became a miracle. A story about compassion, redemption, and the power of a single text message to transform everything. If you want to see what happens when two broken people find each other through fate, keep watching till the end. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. But before we dive in, I have to ask, where are you watching from right now? And what time is it where you are? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and I'd love to know that you're here with me as this story unfolds. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Because we're about to take you on a journey that will make you believe in miracles again. The kind of story that restores your faith in humanity. So hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and let's dive into one of the most incredible true stories you'll hear all year. Her name was Maya, 26 years old. And on the night of November 15th, she hit rock bottom in a way she never thought was possible. 3 months earlier, Maya had a good job. She was an administrative assistant at a marketing firm downtown. The pay wasn't incredible, but it was decent. It was enough to pay her rent, feed her daughter, and maybe have a little left over at the end of the month. She had a plan. A future that looked like it might actually work out. But life, as it often does, had completely different plans. One morning, she arrived at work to find her entire department being cleared out. Desks were being packed up. Security was handing out boxes. And within hours, 200 people had lost their jobs. Maya was one of them. Just like that, her stability was gone. Her future was uncertain. And her daughter was still hungry. For the first month she managed. She had savings. She cut back on everything: food, utilities, entertainment. She found cheaper formula. She applied for assistance programs. But the bills kept coming. Rent didn't care that she'd lost her job. The landlord didn't care about her circumstances. And Emma, her beautiful 6-month-old baby girl, needed to eat. By month 3 the savings were gone. Her credit cards were maxed out. And she was staring at a bank account that read $3.47. Not 300. Not 30. $3.47. That night at 3 o'clock in the morning, Maya sat on her tiny apartment floor surrounded by bills. Overdue notices. Late payment warnings. Eviction threats. Her daughter was asleep in the next room and she was running out of time. Emma's formula would last maybe 2 more days. After that, she had nothing. That's when she made a decision she swore she'd never make. A decision that would require her to swallow every ounce of pride she had left. She picked up her phone with trembling hands. She opened her text messages and searched for her cousin Derek's contact. Derek had a decent job. They weren't super close, but they were family. Surely just this once he could help her. Surely he would understand. With tears streaming down her face, she typed out a message. She poured her desperation into every word. Derek, I know I said I'd never ask you for anything. I know I said I could handle this on my own. But I'm desperate. Emma needs formula and I have nothing left. Can you lend me $200? I promise I'll pay you back as soon as I can. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. She stared at that message for a full minute. Her finger hovered over the send button. This was humiliation. This was admitting defeat. This was saying out loud that she couldn't take care of her own child. But desperation, real desperation, does strange things to your pride. And Maya's pride couldn't compete with Emma's hunger. She hit send. But in the darkness of that early morning, tired and broken, Maya didn't notice something. Her finger had slipped slightly. She'd been scrolling through her contacts list on an old phone, one she rarely used anymore. One where the contact list was cluttered and disorganized from years of collecting numbers and never cleaning them up. She didn't see the name of the person the message was actually going to. She just sent it and put the phone down, hoping Derek would respond quickly. She had no idea that her desperate plea had just reached someone she'd never met. Someone living a completely different life on the other side of the city. Someone who would read those words and feel something he hadn't felt in a very, very long time. Meanwhile, 52 floors above the city, in a penthouse office made entirely of glass and steel, a man named Ethan Cole was still awake. Ethan was one of the most successful people in the world. He'd built his empire from nothing. Started coding when he was 12 years old. Had his first company by the time he was 25. And by 30 he was a billionaire. Everything he touched turned to gold. Every decision he made was strategic. Every move was calculated. Every relationship was transactional. He was perfect at business. He was absolutely terrible at being human. By 45 years old, Ethan had everything money could buy. A penthouse in the most exclusive building in the city. Cars that most people would never see in person. Clothes from designers whose names he couldn't even pronounce. Investments all over the world. Influence, power, control, everything. But he was also completely and utterly alone. There were no photos on his desk of family or friends. There were no personal touches in his office. Just sleek furniture and art that cost more than most houses. Just the cold, empty trappings of success. He couldn't remember the last time he'd had a genuine conversation with another human being. Everyone around him wanted something from him. Money, favors, connections. No one wanted him. Not really. So there he was at 3 in the morning, still working. Still grinding. Still chasing the next deal, the next acquisition, the next win. Because winning was all he knew how to do. And losing, real losing, wasn't something he was willing to contemplate. His phone buzzed. A text came through from an unknown number. Normally he would ignore it. His assistant Victoria filtered all his messages. She made sure he only saw what was important. But something about that notification caught his eye. Maybe it was the time. Maybe it was just pure chance. Or maybe, looking back on it later, it was fate. He picked up his phone and read the message. Derek, I know I said I'd never ask you for anything. I know I said I could handle this on my own. But I'm desperate. Emma needs formula and I have nothing left. Can you lend me $200? I promise I'll pay you back as soon as I can. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Ethan read it 3 times. He should have deleted it. He should have ignored it. He should have gone back to the spreadsheet that had consumed his last 14 hours. He received thousands of messages every day from people trying to take advantage of him. Investment proposals. Business deals. Requests for money. Desperate pleas from people who'd somehow gotten his number. He never responded to any of them. But this one was different. This wasn't from someone trying to manipulate him or use him. This wasn't a calculated pitch or a strategic request. This was raw human pain. This was a mother terrified that she couldn't feed her child. This was someone so desperate that they were willing to humiliate themselves to keep someone they loved alive. Ethan couldn't remember the last time he'd felt that kind of love. The kind that made you willing to lose everything to ask for help, to put your pride aside. He didn't know that kind of love anymore. If he ever had. He stared at his phone for a long moment. And then, for reasons he couldn't quite explain and wouldn't fully understand until much later, he did something he never did. He responded to a message from a stranger. He typed, I think you have the wrong number. But before you realize that, I need to know, are you okay? He hit send and put his phone down. And somewhere deep inside him, something shifted. Something that had been locked away for so long that he'd forgotten it was there began to crack open. He didn't know it then, but sending that message was the moment his entire life changed direction. Back in her small apartment across the city, Maya was almost asleep when her phone buzzed. She jolted awake, her heart pounding. She checked the message from an unknown number with confusion. For a moment she thought maybe she'd sent it to the wrong person. That happens sometimes. But then she read what the message said and something unexpected happened. Someone had asked if she was okay. Just like that. A complete stranger, someone who'd received her desperate plea by accident, was asking if she was okay. And that simple question broke something inside her. Because no one had asked her that in months. Not her family. Not her friends. No one. Everyone had stopped asking because they didn't know how to help. And somewhere along the way, everyone had stopped asking altogether. She didn't overthink it. She typed back, I'm sorry. I sent this to the wrong number. I'm fine. It's been a rough week. She put the phone down, not expecting another response. But within minutes, another message came through. Don't apologize. And I know you're not fine. I can read between the lines. My name is E. And I don't usually do this, but if Emma needs formula, I can help. Maya read that message 5 times. She read it again. And again. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. A complete stranger, someone she'd never met, was offering to help her. This wasn't how the world worked. This wasn't real. But the message was there. It was real. Someone was offering to help. She typed back, I can't accept this. You don't know me. This is too much. The response came almost immediately, you can and you will. Because someone needs to. And because I can. There's no cosmic balance to restore. You need help. I can provide it. Let's keep it simple. That night, for the first time in months, Maya slept through the night. Not because her problems were solved. They weren't. But because something fundamental had shifted. Someone had seen her. Someone had acknowledged her pain. Someone had chosen to help. And that was enough to give her hope. And across the city in his empty penthouse, a billionaire slept better than he had in years. Not because of business success or another deal closed, but because for the first time in a long time he had done something that mattered. He had helped someone, and it had changed something inside him. For the first time in a very long time, both of them weren't alone. Over the next 3 weeks, Maya and Ethan exchanged text messages constantly. Late at night when she couldn't sleep. Early in the morning before Emma woke up. During the day when he was supposed to be working but couldn't stop thinking about what she'd said. They asked each other questions. Deep questions. Where are you from? What breaks your heart? What are you afraid of? What do you dream about? What makes you feel alive? And slowly, without either of them consciously deciding it, without any grand moment where they acknowledged it, a connection formed. A real connection. The kind that transcends the circumstances of how it started. But Ethan knew this couldn't continue forever as just text messages. He needed to see her. He needed to know if what he felt when he read her words was real or just a reflection of his loneliness. And so, on a cold December morning, he did something completely unprecedented. He asked to meet her in person. Maya was terrified. What if it was awkward? What if he looked at her in person and realized she was just another desperate person? What if the connection they built through words didn't translate to real life? But she said yes, because hope is a dangerous thing. And hope was all she had left. They agreed to meet at a small coffee shop across town. A quiet place where two people could talk without the world watching. Maya set the time and the place. Ethan agreed to everything. He wanted her to feel safe. He wanted her to feel like she had control. Maya arrived early. She was so nervous her hands were shaking as she walked in. She ordered water because she couldn't afford to buy anything else. She sat at a small table by the window and waited, trying to breathe, trying to calm her racing heart. What Maya didn't know was that the man who walked through that door in just a few minutes wasn't just any person. He was one of the most recognizable billionaires in the entire country. He'd graced magazine covers. He'd been profiled in every major publication. He was known for his ruthlessness in business. For his coldness. For his complete isolation from normal human connection. His name had been in the news countless times. But she had no idea who he was. Because she'd never looked. She'd never Googled him. She'd never tried to identify him. She just accepted him as just a person. Just someone who'd shown her kindness. So when Ethan walked into that coffee shop, dressed in simple jeans and a sweater with his hair casually styled, she had no idea who she was looking at. And when their eyes met for the first time, it wasn't recognition of his fame or his status. It was recognition of humanity. One broken person seeing another broken person and knowing, somehow, that they understood. He approached her table slowly, carefully. She stood up. And for a moment they just looked at each other. Maya? He asked, his voice deeper and warmer than she'd expected from text messages alone. She responded, nervous but hopeful. Oh my God. You're real. They sat down. The first few moments were awkward, just as she'd feared. But then he asked about Emma and everything shifted. He asked about her dreams. She asked about his childhood. They talked about the moments that broke them and the moments that rebuilt them. For 2 hours they talked. And somewhere in that conversation, something extraordinary happened. Ethan Cole, a man who hadn't felt genuinely seen by another human being in decades, felt truly seen. For the first time, someone was looking at him not as a billionaire, not as a deal or a business opportunity, but as a person. As a man who was lonely. As someone who'd built walls so high that he'd forgotten why he'd built them in the first place. And Maya, a woman who'd stopped believing that good things happened to people like her, found herself believed in. Really believed in. Not pitted. Not patronized. But genuinely, authentically believed in. When they left the coffee shop that day, Ethan asked her a question that would stay with her for years to come. I want to help you, Maya. Not just with formula or bills. I want to help you build something. A future. For you and Emma. Maya was cautious. She'd been hurt before. People made promises they couldn't keep. Why? She asked. You don't even know me. Ethan looked at her with an intensity that took her breath away. I know you better than I know most people I've worked with for years. And what I know is that you're good. You're real. You're someone worth investing in. In every sense of that word. As they stood on the sidewalk outside the coffee shop, neither of them realized they were being watched. And neither of them knew that this beautiful moment of connection was about to be tested in ways they couldn't imagine. The moment Ethan's assistant saw the photographs, she knew this was a problem. A big problem. Her name was Victoria. She'd worked for Ethan for 12 years. She was efficient, loyal, and protective. She was also the kind of person who saw the world in terms of risk management and optics. And what she was looking at was a major risk. The photographs showed Ethan, one of the most reclusive billionaires in the world, sitting in a coffee shop with a woman she didn't recognize. He was holding her hand. They were looking at each other with an intimacy that suggested something real. The photos were grainy, taken from a distance, but they were unmistakably Ethan. And they would be worth a lot of money to the right media outlet. Victoria called an emergency meeting. Within an hour, Ethan's entire business council was briefed. Lawyers were consulted. PR specialists were called in. Because in the world of high finance, optics matter. A lot. And the optics of a billionaire mysteriously helping a struggling single mother were complicated at best, scandalous at worst. A lawyer spoke up in the conference room, his voice careful and professional. "We need to establish the nature of this relationship. If she comes forward claiming he promised her anything, we're vulnerable. If the media frames this as exploitation or manipulation, we're looking at serious damage control. And sir, there's the Nakamura merger to consider." The Nakamura merger was worth $400 million. It was the largest deal Ethan's company had ever attempted. The Nakamura Corporation was known for being conservative. Very conservative. Any hint of scandal could tank the entire thing. Victoria looked at Ethan carefully. "Sir, with respect, we need to be strategic about this. We need to know who this woman is. We need to protect your interests." But Ethan wasn't thinking about his interests. For the first time in his life, he wasn't thinking about the deal. He was thinking about Maya. He was thinking about the fact that he'd felt something real for the first time in decades. And he was thinking about how unfair it would be if fear forced him to walk away from that. He stood up. He looked at his entire council. And he made a decision that would shock them all. "Cancel it," he said quietly. "Sir?" Victoria's voice was confused. Everyone's voice was confused. "Cancel the Nakamura merger. If my personal life threatens the deal, then the deal isn't one I want to make. I'm done hiding who I am. I'm done pretending my business is more important than my integrity. I'm done choosing money over meaning." No one knew what to say. They'd never heard Ethan Cole say anything like that before. But what Ethan didn't know was that his moment of conviction was about to be tested in ways he couldn't imagine. Because at that exact moment, Maya was discovering the truth about who he really was. She'd been curious. She'd finally decided to do what she should have done weeks ago. She typed his name into a search engine. And her phone filled with articles, photos, magazine covers, business profiles. It was him. Ethan Cole. One of the richest men in the world. She felt like the floor was disappearing beneath her feet. She read article after article, trying to understand who this person really was. A billionaire. A business genius. Someone known for being cold and ruthless. Someone who didn't do relationships. Someone who, by all accounts, didn't even seem fully human. And it all came rushing back. The feeling of being used. Of being toyed with. Of having her desperation turned into entertainment for someone bored with their wealth. She typed out a message with shaking hands. "I know who you are. I can't believe you didn't tell me. Did you think this was some kind of game? Some rich guy playing savior to make himself feel better about his empty life? Using my desperation as some kind of hobby?" Ethan texted back immediately, his words frantic. "It's not like that. I wanted to meet you as myself first. I was scared that if you knew who I was, you'd think everything was about the money. That you'd be suspicious. That it would change everything." Maya's response came back quickly. "Isn't it? Isn't it about the money?" For 2 weeks they didn't speak. Ethan didn't reach out. He wanted to give her space. He wanted her to process the truth and decide on her own if she could trust him. And in those 2 weeks he made a decision of his own. He was going to prove that this wasn't about money. That this was about something much deeper. On the 15th day of their silence, everything changed in a way that would redefine everything they thought they understood about their connection. It happened at midnight. Emma started running a fever. At first, Maya thought it was just a normal fever. Babies got fevers. But then it climbed higher. 102. 103. By 1 in the morning, it was 104 degrees, and Emma was crying inconsolably. Maya tried everything. Cool baths. Medicine. Comfort. Nothing worked. She could feel the heat radiating off her baby's tiny body. She could hear the distress in Emma's cry. And she was terrified. She called 911. The paramedics arrived within minutes. They looked concerned as they examined Emma. Pneumonia, they said. Severe. They needed to get her to the hospital immediately. The ambulance ride felt like it lasted forever. Maya held Emma's tiny hand the entire way, whispering to her that she was going to be okay, that they were going to get through this, that everything was going to be fine. She didn't know if she was trying to convince Emma or convince herself. At the hospital, the emergency room was chaos. Doctors and nurses moved with purpose and speed. Tests were run. X-rays were taken. And then came the diagnosis: pneumonia. Severe enough to require hospitalization. Possible bacterial infection. She would need antibiotics. She would need monitoring. She would need care that would cost thousands and thousands of dollars. Money that Maya didn't have. In that sterile, fluorescent-lit emergency room, with her baby in distress and doctors looking at her with pity and concern, something broke inside Maya. All her pride fell away. All her anger at Ethan dissolved. All she could think about was one person. The one person she'd sworn she never wanted to see again. Her hands were shaking as she picked up her phone. She called him. She didn't know if he would answer. She didn't know if he would even want to hear her voice. But she had to try. She had to reach out to the only person who'd ever shown her true kindness. The phone rang once. Twice. She was about to hang up when he answered. Maya? His voice was urgent, alert. Like he'd been waiting for her call. I'm sorry, she said, her voice breaking completely. I know I said I didn't want to hear from you, but Emma's sick. She has pneumonia. I'm at county hospital right now and she's really sick and I don't have insurance and I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. Ethan didn't hesitate for a single second. He didn't ask questions. He didn't pause to think about the business implications or the optics. He just responded from a place of pure instinct and care. I'm on my way, he said. Stay with Emma. Tell the hospital that her bills are covered. Tell them to do whatever she needs. I'll handle everything. Just stay with her. He hung up the phone. He looked at Victoria and the rest of his counsel who were still in his office, waiting to hear what he would do about the Nakamura merger. He smiled. For the first time in years, he felt like he was finally making the right choice. Tell them the deal is off the table, he said. I have somewhere to be. Victoria's voice was shocked. Sir, you're walking away from $400 million? Ethan grabbed his jacket. He looked at her one more time. I'm not walking away from the deal. I'm running towards something that matters infinitely more. He left the penthouse. He didn't look back at the contracts, at the empire he'd spent his entire adult life building, at the legacy he'd been chasing. For the first time he was looking forward instead of backward. Ethan arrived at County Hospital within 30 minutes. He went directly to the pediatric ICU. He didn't stop at reception. He didn't hesitate. He just moved with the certainty of someone who knew exactly what he needed to do and wouldn't be stopped. He found Maya in the hallway outside Emma's room. She was sitting on a chair, staring at nothing. She looked absolutely destroyed. When she looked up and saw him, everything inside her broke open. I didn't know who else to call, she said, tears streaming down her face. I know I said things. I know I was angry. But I didn't know what else to do. Ethan sat down beside her. He didn't say anything. He just pulled her close and held her while she cried. Because sometimes words aren't what people need. Sometimes they just need to know that they're not alone. A doctor approached them a few minutes later. She was professional and kind, but her expression was serious. Are you family? She asked. Ethan spoke up. I am. I'm here to ensure that Emma gets the best care possible. Whatever she needs, cost is not a factor. As Ethan discussed Emma's care with the medical team, Maya listened. She listened to him ask detailed questions about treatment options. She listened to him authorize procedures without hesitation. She listened to him speak with authority and care in equal measure. And in that moment she understood something profound. This wasn't about him trying to buy her affection. This wasn't about him using his money to control the situation. This was about genuine love. This was about the fact that somewhere along the way, this cold, isolated billionaire had discovered what actually matters in life. And it wasn't money. It was people. It was connection. It was the willingness to show up for someone when they needed you most. 3 days later, Emma's fever broke. The antibiotics started working. Her little lungs began to clear. And the doctor said the words Maya had been praying to hear. She was going to be okay. Maya sat by Emma's crib in the hospital room, watching her baby sleep. For 3 days she hadn't left this room. She'd been terrified that if she left, something would happen. But now, watching Emma's chest rise and fall steadily, she finally let herself believe that her daughter was going to survive this. She heard a sound at the doorway. She looked up. Ethan was standing there, 2 cups of coffee in his hands. He'd been coming by the hospital every few hours with food, with supplies, with his presence. "You should sleep," he said quietly, handing her a coffee. "I can sit with her." "I can't leave," Maya said. "What if something happens?" "Nothing's going to happen. She's stable. She's going to be fine. And you need to take care of yourself so you can take care of her." Maya nodded slowly. She was so tired. She couldn't remember the last time she'd actually slept. Ethan sat in the chair beside the crib. And Maya, knowing that she was safe, that Emma was safe, finally let herself close her eyes. When she woke up hours later, she found Ethan and Emma both sleeping. His head was resting against the crib, his hand reaching toward Emma's tiny fingers. And something in Maya's chest broke open in the most beautiful way possible. She spoke quietly so as not to wake him. "I'm sorry I didn't trust you when I found out who you were." Ethan's eyes opened slowly. He'd been awake, just watching them sleep. "You were protecting yourself," he said. "That's not something you should apologize for. I should have been honest from the start." "But you still came," Maya said. "Even after I pushed you away. Even after I was angry. You still came." Ethan stood up. He took her hand. "Because that's what you do when you love someone, Maya. You show up. Even when it's hard. Even when you're scared. Especially then." Maya's breath caught. "You love me?" "I do. I have since that first text. I love you. And I love Emma. And if you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life proving that to you. Not with money. Not with grand gestures. But with presence. With commitment. With choosing you every single day even when the world tells me I shouldn't." And right there, in that hospital room with their daughter sleeping peacefully between them, Maya understood what it meant to truly be loved. Not for what she could give. Not for who she was supposed to be. But for exactly who she was. Broken. Scared. Imperfect. Real. 6 months later, everything had changed. But not in the way either of them expected. They opened a storefront downtown. A beautiful space with warm lighting and welcoming energy. Above the door, a sign read, "Emma's Kitchen, Organic Baby Food and Wellness for Families." But it wasn't just a business. It was a mission. Ethan had helped Maya develop a complete business plan. They created a line of organic baby food made from the highest quality ingredients. But more than that, they created a community space. A place where struggling families could come without judgment. Where they could access nutritional guidance. Where they could find resources. Where they could know that someone believed in them. On opening day, Maya stood in front of a crowd of people. Some were customers. Some were families from the neighborhood who'd heard about what they were doing. Some were people who'd struggled just like Maya had struggled. She spoke from her heart. "7 months ago, I was terrified. I had $3 in my bank account, and my baby needed formula. I sent a text I thought was to my cousin. And a stranger answered. A stranger who turned out to be someone extraordinary. But here's what you need to know. He didn't just give me money. He believed in me. He saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. And this business, this space, this community we're building, it all exists because someone showed me kindness when I needed it most. And my dream is that everyone who walks through that door knows that there's someone who believes in them too." Standing in the back of the storefront, Ethan watched Maya speak. Pride, love, and hope were written all over his face. This was what it meant to be alive. This was what it meant to matter. This was what he'd been missing his entire life. A few weeks later, Ethan made an announcement that shocked the business world. He announced the launch of the Maya Cole Foundation. A foundation dedicated to providing financial assistance to single parents in crisis. A foundation designed to help them build sustainable futures for their families. The foundation would start with $50 million. And he was committing to grow it every single year. When asked by reporters why he was doing this, why he was abandoning his corporate empire to focus on this cause, Ethan gave an answer that they'd never expect from him. "I spent 45 years of my life chasing money," he said. "I built an empire. I became a billionaire. And I was completely and utterly alone. It took meeting a woman who had nothing, who was willing to sacrifice everything for her child, to understand what actually matters in life. It's not about the money. It's about the people. It's about showing up. It's about compassion. And it's about recognizing that our greatest wealth isn't measured in our bank accounts. It's measured in the lives we touch and the love we share." 2 years after Maya sent that text to a wrong number, she and Ethan were married. Not in a grand ballroom, though they certainly could have afforded one. But in a small garden, surrounded by the people who mattered most. And Emma, now 2 years old, was there, dressed in a tiny flower girl dress, dropping petals everywhere and giggling. The reception was simple. Genuine. Filled with the families who'd been helped by Emma's Kitchen and the foundation. People who'd been given second chances. People who'd been shown that someone believed in them. People who understood exactly why this marriage mattered so much. Later that evening, as the sun was setting and the celebration was winding down, Maya and Ethan stood on the edge of the garden, looking out at the city lights in the distance. Maya turned to him and asked a question she'd been wondering about for 2 years. Do you think I really sent that text by accident? Or do you think it was meant to happen? Do you think it was fate? Ethan pulled her close. He thought about it for a moment. And then he smiled. Does it matter? He asked. Whether it was fate or coincidence, whether it was an accident or something written in the stars, we're here now. We found each other. We saved each other. That's what matters. Maya leaned her head against his chest. I was thinking, maybe there are no accidents. Maybe every desperate moment, every text sent in the darkness, every cry for help, maybe they're all actually calls for connection. And sometimes if we're lucky, someone answers. Someone chooses to show up. Ethan kissed the top of her head. And sometimes, if we're brave enough to let them in, we discover that we needed saving just as much as they did. This is a story about a text message. A simple mistake. A number dialed wrong. But it's really about something so much bigger than that. It's about the profound power of compassion. It's about the idea that we are never truly alone, even when we feel like we are. It's a reminder that our moments of desperation don't define us. How we respond to them does. And how we respond to other people's moments of desperation matters infinitely more than we realize. Maybe your text is already sent. Maybe someone is waiting for you to answer their call for help. And maybe the greatest miracle you experience this year will come not from getting what you want, but from giving what someone else desperately needs. If you're watching this and you're in your own dark moment, your own desperate hour, don't lose faith. Send the text. Ask for help. Believe that there are good people in the world who will answer. And if you're in a position to help someone, if you see someone asking, please don't look away. Because you never know whose life you might change. And you never know how your kindness might transform your own. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because kindness is contagious. And sometimes all it takes is one person believing in you to change everything. This story is real. It's proof that miracles do happen. They happen when we're brave enough to ask for help. They happen when we're kind enough to answer. And they happen when two broken people decide that they're worth fixing together. Remember, the text you thought was a mistake might be the beginning of your greatest blessing. Stay hopeful. Stay kind. And always, always answer the call.